Hello YouTube. This is a video response to Doug Pagitt regarding John Piper's comment, "Farewell, Rob Bell," upon hearing about Bell's latest book, Love Wins. For my subscribers who aren't familiar with these figures, Doug Pagitt is head pastor of Solomon's Porch in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's also a senior fellow of the Emergent Village. Rob Bell is pastor of Mars Hill in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And John Piper is a popular Calvinist theologian. He has his own ministry called Desiring God, and he's head pastor of Bethlehem Baptist Church, also in Minneapolis. If you're not familiar with John Piper, I'm going to link to a video which Desiring God Ministries put on YouTube. And I think you get a pretty good taste for how he functions. Now, to get to the rhetoric behind Piper's comment, I think that I should mention how I came to know about you, Mr. Pagitt, and how folks on the fundamentalist religious right attempt to paint you to their target audiences. The first place I had found out about you was in an interview with Todd Friel on the radio program Way of the Master. Yes, the Way of the Master with Kirk Cameron and Ray Comfort. And the interview's an absolute disaster. And it's an absolute disaster because what Friel does is he's well aware of his fundamentalist, inerrantist audience and attempts to make Mr. Pagitt appear to be a threat to the beliefs which they're obligated to adhere to. And he does this by deliberately ignoring points which Mr. Pagitt attempts to make and attempts to play semantics games in order to get Pagitt to say certain buzzwords which he'll be able to clobber him over the head with later. And the second place I had heard about you, Mr. Pagitt, was an article which Mark Driscoll wrote regarding the 4 lanes of the emerging church movement. So Driscoll's also another popular Calvinist theologian, and he's head pastor also of a church called Mars Hill in Seattle. And he puts both you and Mr. Bell in a category called the emergent liberals. And among my Calvary Chapel folk, this was a double red flag. The first being emergent was used as a pejorative to describe people who were seen as wishy-washy in their faith at best, or people who weren't really saved at worst. And then you have the word liberal, which of course is bad, because it suggests that the emergent movement is part of the big, evil, Satanist liberal conspiracy, which is designed primarily to destroy the faith of the true believers. Now, I have not read Bell's book, so I don't know what the main premise of the book is. But I tend to think that it may be regarding the idea of the universal restoration of all things, and that what majority Christians thought about hell being a place of eternal torment may not necessarily be correct, and may not be the best way to put it or the best way to describe its function. And this is actually a very old belief. There's a Greek word, apokatastasis, which refers to this view, which was brought up in writings by the Church Fathers Origen and Gregory of Nyssa, among others. And this may have been one of the things which eventually got Origen anathematized as a heretic. And I'm going to provide a link to an Orthodox Christian website which talks about apokatastasis. So there's 3 things that strike me as very amusing about Piper's comment, given his own Calvinist theology. The first is that he feels that he needs to gleefully decry Bell's book on Twitter, despite his own theology would dictate that the whole thing's been predestined. And also, Piper and Driscoll as well, being adherents of sovereign election, attempt to take God's place in dictating who they believe is going to go to heaven and going to go to hell, and making a comment like this. No, that Piper's essentially insinuating that Rob Bell and anyone who adheres to Rob Bell's views regarding this matter are going to an eternal hell. And an eternal hell which they don't believe in the first place. You see, that's what amuses me most about these Reformed Christians, particularly in the United States, is that they assume that their particular deconstruction of the Christian religion, which happened about 500 years ago, so happens to be the 100% correct and valid one. And then they attempt to pretend that either their deconstruction of the religion was the way it always has been, or that because their theology is so correct and so pure, it's entirely unquestionable. So I do find it funny that they're sentencing people to an eternal hell, which these people may not necessarily believe in. And I'm going to post a video of where Mark Driscoll does this as well. But this is also nothing new in the Christian church, is it? The Athanasian Creed essentially says that people cannot be saved if they don't believe in eternal hellfire. So I think it's par for the course for someone like John Piper, who gleefully denounces people who don't believe the exact same things that he does, you included. So, thank you for the invitation to make a video response, and I would love to hear from you. Good night.